Hello, welcome to the Claret and Blue post-match reaction. My name's Dan Rowitz. I'm joined here by the brilliant Neil from the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Neil, I always love doing podcasts with you. The tactical insight and the vibes are excellent with you. Perfect for a quick 30-minute post-match show. First of all, you've done your own podcast before we've even come on, so you've already spoken at length about Villa. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the game, how are you? Feeling good?
I'm good. I'm feeling great. The sun hasn't even gone down on a Sunday, and we get to smile about Aston Villa winning. So that's always good. And winning by a brace from an unlikely source, which I'm sure we're going to get onto in a moment. So all in all, away points are always kind of taste nicer, and we got 3 of them today. So absolutely over the moon.
We spoke a lot about Burnley on obviously the preview show that we did, and they also got quite a mention in our season preview as well, that they kind of come up with this aura almost that company brings of they smash the Championship, they play nice football. Will that translate into the Premier League? And Natalie, who did our preview show, was kind of hyping up Burnley and how good they're going to be and how good of a game this could be. And I kind of bought into that hype, to be honest. And I do think Burnley can still go on to have a decent season. Of course, they've played 2 games, we've played 3, but it feels like it'll take some time for them to gel almost, and they might need 10 to 12 games before they can start to string performances together. And you'd hope, as a Burnley fan, not that it bothers us, that they're not almost kind of cut adrift by then. There's a lot of talk then in the build-up about like how prepared both sides were. That Burnley obviously didn't play last week because they were playing Luton, and Luton's ground isn't ready yet. We've obviously played the extra game in Europe as well, and how that would impact Villa from a fatigue point of view. Burnley are maybe more or less fatigued than Villa would be. But to me, at this point in the season, if it was February or March when the fixtures start to build up, that extra week of rest would do the side a world of good. At this stage of the season, though, Burnley aren't up to speed yet because they've played less games than Villa. Villa have started to hit their groove already now and kind of toyed with Burnley at times, I felt. And as soon as it went to 2-0, I thought, well, that's game over regardless of what happens in the second half after that. Did you feel the same way, that it was almost men against boys at times?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say men against boys, but I think just to touch on the Burnley aura piece, I think Burnley are well entitled to smell themselves a small bit, because they're playing. Like last year, they played an absolutely superb brand of football. They played a brand of football that we've seen teams, if you can get it right, I'm going to call it the Brighton or the Brentford style of football. A flowing, confident type of football, a new age type of football. And if you can get it right in the Premier League, it can work. And to be honest with you, I still think they can get it right. They've had a stinker of a start with Man City and Villa, 2 teams you don't want. Like that Luton game might have been perfect for them to go maybe win that, get a foothold. But they had a lot of players today making only their second Premier League appearance, or in some instances, Delacroix, they played at left back, he's first. Now you're relying on the likes of Sander Berge in midfield, and to a lesser degree, Josh Cullen inside there to really provide your experience, and Darragh O'Shea to provide your experience of Premier League football there. And to be really honest, the 2 guys they had in midfield, I'm sure we'll talk about it in a moment, they were the problem for Burnley today. Their 2 most experienced players were the problem. And Villa went after them, and both of them were booked in the first half, and they were incredibly ineffectual in Josh Cullen and Sander Berge. So I think with Burnley, I think they'll figure it out. I think they still probably, I know they've signed a ton of players. They've been really astute in who they've signed, real up and coming players. Maybe their age profile is a small bit too young, but the sell on will still be there for them. And I think that I still think they need another central midfielder. I think they need somebody who's got a bit more pace about them, because I don't know. I don't like the pairing of Cullen and Sander Berge in there. And I'm sure that some Burnley fans might watch this and say, what, he doesn't know what he's talking about. They're 2 fantastic players. I'm an Irishman. I like Josh Cullen. I just don't think Sander Berge is the partner for him, because Sander Berge moves at a glacial pace. He's so slow. And Villa really capitalised on that today.
And talk about pairings from the other side of it. Kamara and Louise get better by the week, don't they? I don't know what else we can say about them. This is game week 3 in the Premier League, and it's like we're already kind of going, what do you say about these guys? I don't know where we're going to be game week 38 when we've seen them for an entire season together. But those 2 are just such a classy combination of footballers, and it's not like it's even like you kind of go, well, Villa have got a team of 11, of course, and those 2 are the hub to it. And if they don't play well, Villa don't play well. There's so many good players around them as well that Villa look at a serious side as a whole unit. But those two in particular as a partnership are superb, aren't they?
Boubacar Kamara today was look, I think it's obvious who man of the match is today. How many times would Matty Cash ever have an opportunity to score a hat trick in a match? And I was delighted he kept on shooting, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a moment. But I there was a player I had massive eyes, and I was burning a hole in his back, I'd say, through the whole out of the first half to see how he was getting on. That was Boubacar Kamara, because I felt I was correctly critical of him in the first game against Newcastle. I felt he was dragged
Yeah.
out of position. I felt he didn't play the six well. I felt he didn't know who was playing the six between himself and Douglas Luiz, and Joe Linton went through them like a dose of salts. But I think in the Hibs game and in the Everton game, he's gotten back up to speed. And a lot of people said, "Oh, the press from Everton was non-existent, and Hibs press was non-existent." And then when you come up against a Burnley team who are, I know in the short tenure company has, but he's almost made this team famous for this ridiculously high press, which they came with in Villa played through. I can talk about that in a moment. But the moral of the story is Boubacar Kamara had to be on form today, and I think he stood up to it. And I actually think he was better when he was under pressure, as much as he was, because he was able to play those little 1-2 passes that he's always done. He was able to quickly get turned and get around on the ball. Sometimes when he's too much time to think, that's when he gets caught, like against Leicester last season. He gets caught when he's too much time to think. Maybe he tries to turn once, twice, 3 times, and then all of a sudden, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Tete got the ball off him and Harvey Barnes stuck it, and I think in the back of the net. But he was really good today, really reactive, really proactive. And I thought, I came away from that game going, brilliant. If he can string 4 or 5 games like this together, and this is the player we want to see, well, then Villa will be all the better for it, because the tactic that Unai Emery plays, it needs to have that pivot point being really, really solid. And he was really, really solid today, and I thought he was excellent.
I still find it just so interesting watching us play and the style of playing, the kind of the variables in the system that we play, a back 5 or back 3, I guess, today with Cash push further forward, and we look at a different side but still hold the same principles of playing the same kind of way. Somebody that we've not mentioned there in the midfield is John McGinn. Again, I don't know how much I can kind of have an outpouring love for John McGinn. He's just such a unique footballer. I think John called him on a recent episode that he's got a bit of everything, and the ball he plays through for the first goal, obviously he doesn't get the assist, does he, because he's not the final pass, but that's the ball down the channel for Watkins that makes that move happen in the first place. So I've done enough talking about John McGinn over the last few weeks. How good is he, and how much has he improved over the last kind of 18 months? He looks like a serious footballer now.
He does, and what I think he looks like is he looks like a captain as well, because you want somebody to be more than a 7 out of 10. Like if you're 7.5 out of 10 every week, you need your captain to be that way, should I say? That slide pass that way to that pass to Diaby for the second goal was just, oh, it was caramel. It was brilliant. And I thought the weight of his pass today was really good. I thought he played well.
That as well, he's passing, I think.
I think so too. And he was much maligned. I think it's something he's worked on, because even the end of the first season with Gerrard, he was passing the ball everywhere but to a Villa player. And that's obviously symptomatic of Gerrard just misusing him 100%. But now we're looking at him, and he seems much more assured. And I spoke about Burnley's high press. And I'm looking forward to looking back at it afterwards. And I know I sound like I'm going in on Sanderberg and Josh Cullen, and I probably am. But if Burnley fans couldn't see how much massive problem they were today, then they're going to be just looking at this week in, week out, because all that needed to happen today was their huge press that went on, and they did press brilliantly. Benson, I was surprised he came off. I thought he was an outlet for them. I was actually really surprised he came off, but himself, Kaliosho and Foster behind them, I thought they really pressed up there. But there was a gulf of space. There was at least 35 to 35 yards between where they were pressing and where the two boys were standing in Cullen and Berger. And John McGinn was putting back into those areas, and Boubacar Kamara was able to move forward into that area, and Douglas Luiz was there. So that's how you can play through a high press really quickly, really easy, if your spacing isn't correct. And the spacing wasn't correct today, and that's where Villa got a lot of joy. Like, we didn't have as many passes as Burnley today. We didn't win the possession battle. Burnley had more possession. But what happened was there was a lot of passing, there was a lot of high pressing when we had the ball, but we were a lot more direct in how we could get the ball forward. And that comes from a John McGinn being in there, taking up that space, and a Moussa Diaby coming into the middle of midfield as well. And I thought the two of them are really beginning to look for each other and look well together. So well done to both of them too. I think that there's a lot that there's a lot that we can still work on there, maybe to increase the speed of our attack. And I know why it isn't quick at the moment, because you need to have a lot of passes around at the back to let people get set in their formation in the way that we attack, but because we attack in that kind of W formation. But with Digne high and Diaby and McGinn in behind Watkins, and then another, whether it be Cash or whether it be Bailey on the other side. And you need to have a lot of passes to get people set up there. But I think in transition, we're beginning to get quicker and quicker at that. And, against the high press today, I think it was a good, albeit we bossed this game from start to finish, I think it was still a very good opportunity for us to do it against that press.
I saw your tweet that you did of your analysis of Pau Torres from the Everton game, which I would love it if we could do stuff like that, but we've got to be a lot more careful with the copyright rules than you have.
You guys can't afford to lose your Twitter account.
Basically, yeah. I'll be careful of that, Neil, in the future. But great kind of analysis of the way he kind of almost directs the play from centre half and Villa's passing moves and things. You talk about like us being a bit quicker on transition. Obviously, all the talk pre-season was Mings versus Torres. They're both left-footed. They both have different attributes. Obviously, now Mings is no longer going to be a part of this squad, and Torres is playing that position. But what he offers us on the ball and the way that he kind of springs defence into attack in a click of a finger is unbelievable. And I think that, again, the more time goes on for him, the more Villa fans will start to realise what he brings, and the more he gets up to the speed of the league as well. He's such a classy footballer, isn't he, Torres?
Yeah, he is, and we can talk about the good and the bad of him here, if that's okay as well, because he had one moment where he just completely. I think he'll look back and he'll go, "Who was that defending?" It certainly wasn't me, because that's the defense I would be using too as well for that one, because it was just a strange decision to go to the left shoulder as opposed to the right shoulder, when it was obvious that it's like he forgot what foot the striker played. Was more adept to it, and he went to the left shoulder, and of course he just swiveled and put it in the back of the net. But anyway, he learned from those. But with the ball at his feet, he's a real comfort blanket for this midfield. And I spoke about the fact that when you play the way that the Villa do, when you play with that formation and attack in possession that Villa do, you need to pass the ball around a bit. You need to draw teams out. You need to at least draw somebody from their, if you want to call it, their second level. So if they play one up top and they've got three behind, you need to draw at least one of those forward to create that gap in between, as I say, in between the lines, so that you can get players turned. And that's what this thing is all about. It's about players turning around, trying to figure out where we're going, and that gives you 2 yards of a head start. And when you've got players like Diaby in there, that's exactly what they're made for. But Pau Torres is great to be able to do that. He's an assured passer. We can talk about his physicality and lack of it, and that's something that when he came to Aston Villa, people in La Liga questioned. And I think that will be played. That goal today will be played back to him umpteen times over the next week, and I don't think he's going to be able to run away from it. And that's fine too, because I think he's a man. I think he's a big enough boy to be able to realise that, okay, in the Premier League, sometimes maybe I just need to put my arms out and just be a roadblock, as opposed to trying to always get on the ball. And I think he learned from it. But yeah, listen, look, when Tyrone Mings goes down. Tyrone Mings went down. I know you guys did a whole podcast on it. What do we lose with Tyrone Mings? I was distraught after that Newcastle game, not because of the result, because who would replace him from that kind of stability and that kind of settling hand type of player at the back. And Pau Torres has come in, and his passing has certainly helped to do that. He'll get up to speed with the Premier League. He'll probably realise he can have a drag out of a player here and then. If you're a centre half, you tend to get away with it. If the other guy's a big man too, I think he'll get used to all that stuff, and maybe learn a dark art or two as the year goes on. But have to say, very happy with him today. Albeit the goal is we would, if you take out the goal, I think I would say I would be very, very happy with him today.
It's a very Unai Emery thing, isn't it? That he's had a great performance and played well, but the goal is just niggling you a little bit, and he's room for improvement. Pau Torres, come on. We'll talk about Olsen and Matty Cash in a sec. There's been a few questions in the comments about Thursday, who plays in goal and all those kind of things. Talk about Zaniolo very briefly. Obviously came on for his debut. something about Nicolozaniolo, isn't there? Or Saniolo, I think is the correct pronunciation. I've seen a few places say. Comes on with his pink boots, his shirt tucked in, big lad, physical presence. You can tell already that he will be up to the physicality side of the Premier League. That kind of dogged, Emi Buendia traits of being a bit of a busybody, being everywhere, but having the advantage of about 7 inches in height on Emi Buendia, which is a big plus on his side, quite literally. He looks like he could be a bit of a underrated asset possibly for Villa. I think that signing has maybe gone under the radar a little bit because of his kind of possible fitness problems with the 2 ACLs he's had. But if he's over those, he comes on, doesn't he? Nutmeg somebody, has a shot from 25, 20 yards, whatever it is, and that could have got in on another day. There's just something about Nicolozaniolo that I think Villa fans are gonna fall in love with.
Yeah, it's the pink boots and the white shirt as well. Though. That was the thing today. It really stood out for me. But no, you can see this guy. This guy is like you talk about confidence players. I'd say this guy has that touch of okay. I want everybody to parse what I'm saying here with the fact that I do not think this guy is as good as Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, beforehand, but you know the thing where Cristiano Ronaldo is so cocky that when he's feeling himself, he plays better and he needs to feel himself to play better. I think we've got something like that in Zaniolo too. But at the same time, I think he's the type of a guy who can play himself into a game as well. Think maybe, and I'm thinking when I saw him today, I was thinking Anwar El Ghazi with about maybe an extra 15-20% on top.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a fair enough kind of description of him. But that shot, the dip on that shot that he took, that James Trafford had to get a hand to, that was like that was a glimpse. And I think he was cock cold when he just come on, and next thing he was racing through and couldn't believe his luck that everything was open up in front of him, and then the Burnley player gets back to him. Yes, maybe he should have squared it to Watkins, but lots of really interesting things that he did there. Lots of interesting positions he took up. I think one or two times. I think he looked really eager because one or two times he actually. So he's new. He's here maybe what 8 days. You could see he knew where the ball needed to go. He just didn't know who needed to be there. And I think he ran into passing lanes that other people were in once or twice in and around the box. And that's fine. That's not a criticism. It's just he's new around here. And I think the more he gets to learn to play with these players, specifically Douglas Luiz, I think he's going to love playing with Douglas Luiz. I think he's going to love playing with Douglas Luiz, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that partnership grows over the next few weeks and months, because you could see him eager to get on those little one-touch triangle passes in and around the box and in around that kind of just at the edge of the attacking third, and that's good because we need somebody who can do that, because that breaks open play as well. You know, it sucks people in, and then it allows our fullbacks, whether it be Dini, whether it be Matty Cash, whether it be Bailey, whether it be whoever, Alex Moreno when he comes back, JJ. It allows the people who are out wide to be able to pull even wider and be an outlet for that ball to go wide and get everybody turned again, because that's what this formation, that's what Unai's tactics are all about. It's about get that person turned so they can't get their feet planted, and then it gives us options where we know where the balls are going to be, what areas we're going to attack with crosses, passes, through balls, or those little triangles as well. So it's exciting player is Zaniolo, albeit we only saw him for 20 minutes.
You mentioned those little link-up passes and triangles. The move for the goal that Cash, the build-up player for that second goal, Zaniolo will be the player in that Matty Cash position, running into the box, linking up with Diaby, that kind of turn of pace that Zaniolo has got as well. There's a couple of comments kind of reference him to the Italian Zlatan, that kind of personality side of things. I think he's probably spot on. But as much as the good side of his game, that one you mentioned where he should have squared it to Watkins, and if the game was riding on it as a 0-0, you'd be fuming with him not passing out there. But I think we're 3-1 up at that stage. So go and enjoy yourself, Nicola. Let's talk about Olsen and Cash then. We'll do this in the same breath by a bit of a moan. It's not about their performances for me. It's about social media. Again, I think you and me actually spoke about this before on a show where it's like the team news comes out an hour before kickoff and somebody is in the squad that people generally don't like. And it's, we've lost today. Robin Olsen's playing hard, and disaster, end of the world, Turf Moor, Burnley going to do us over. Matty Cash playing further forward. What a disgrace. What's Unai up to? Olsen barely has to do a single thing all game. In the first half, Burnley don't even have a shot on target. I mean, you could have played in goal in the first half, Neil, or I couldn't. It would have been the same outcome because there was nothing to do. And Cash scores the brace that essentially wins the game. So can we all just calm down a little bit when the team news comes out and stop kind of having a go at individuals when it's a team game now? And it's not an over reliance on an individual to do something. And Martinez is the obvious one, isn't it? If he's missing, it does change the dynamic. There's one thing in particular that I wanted to mention, and I'm absolutely picking flyers. And it's before the Burnley goal in the initial phase, before the ball comes in. I think it's Diego Carlos kind of flicks a header backwards rather than heading it back to Olsen. And I think if Martinez is playing and they all have a bit more confidence in him, I think he just knocks that back to Martinez and the danger is over. But for some reason, it might not be a goalkeeper thing. It might have just been Diego Carlos makes a strange. I think it was him. I don't know if you remember the instance. But he kind of tries to flick it out the box with the back of his head, which, if you clear that first time where you go back to the keeper, danger is gone and Burnley don't even score. And again, I'm absolutely picking flies there. But the general point is, it's a team game. Like, let's just all calm down. Let's judge the team after the game has been played, not an hour before it's even kicked off, because it's ridiculous. I know it's social media and everyone just wants to have an opinion, but slating the goalkeeper and saying, oh, it's game over because he's playing, or what's Cash going to do at right wing? Just relax, please.
I blame it all, and there's this podcast, and I don't know how anyone can ever listen to them. They're just the worst. They're called For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. They're just useless. Do a team sheet tantrum, and it just puts everybody in bad. It's my favorite podcast because I think, and you know what, the interesting thing about it is the reason that we do it is, and we call it a team sheet tantrum in a very it's a sarcastic kind. It actually came about when Dean Smith was the manager, because there was. People said that he never made any changes or never changed up his team, and then all of a sudden, like, we were saying, okay, this is going to be a tantrum, yet he won't have changed up his team, so everybody's expecting what the team is. So that was the irony behind it. But the reason we do it is to be able to maybe try and explain it, not explain it from a cocky point of view. We're not cocky, but it allows people to have a conversation together and go, okay, yeah, listen, maybe we can see where Matty Cash is going to play. Why would we do this? Why are we setting up like this when Burnley are there, are setting up like this? And we just kind of talk it through, and people come in the comments and they give their opinions. And I think it's a nice leveler, because sometimes myself and Paddy can get very, very high or very low when we see stuff on social media too. And I know that, you know, I sit down a half an hour before the game and I go, right, bit more centered now for this game, and I'm going to be able to watch it. But you are right. Like, sometimes people will come in and go, this is a disgrace. Like, there's no point in even showing up today. Watkins couldn't hit the back end of a barn, or what's Matty Cash going to do there? Why doesn't he start Bailey? Bailey's in form, you know. It sets a bad precedent for the team, and, you know, what's the dressing room going to look like when they see Bailey, who's been on form the last 2 games, and you're now dropping him, you know. And then you're kind of going, look, it's not like Bailey found out right now when we're finding out that he's not in the team. He probably knew since Thursday he won't be in the team, you know, little things like that. So, but it allows people to get it out of the system. But I do agree with you that, you know, sometimes, and everyone's guilty of it. We're guilty of it. Even live on the podcast, we're guilty of it. Sometimes you go, I can't figure this one out. And we have a mantra on the podcast that is like, well, we won't actually know what the hell's going to go on here until 10 minutes into the game, you know. And that's really, no matter what way the team sets up, no matter what way. Okay, you can put out 11 players on the field, but today there was a conversation about, are we playing 5 at the back? Are we just really going there for a point? Are we afraid of Burnley? And like I was kind of saying on our podcast, saying, no, Matty Cash is going to play right wing, and we're going to go essentially 3 at the back. And this is a perfect game to try this, because they're going to press high, and it allows it allows us to play this way. And that's the way it worked out. I'm not saying that we called it perfectly or anything like that, but when you look at it, you step back from it, the decision was made to catch Burnley, and we caught them because the guy who was put in that position ended up scoring 2 goals. You know,
we keep saying we don't question Unai Emery because he's a far better person out of anybody to pick the side than any of us are. And I know, like I said, it's social media. We're doing a podcast. We want to encourage people to have an opinion, but have it after the game. I've said after the Newcastle game, it's okay to question Emery after the fact. If Cash had an absolute stinker at right wing today, we'd be saying, well, that didn't quite work, did it? And we'll have to change things, and maybe we won't see that again. It's just happened to be that he scored 2 goals today in that position where it looks like an absolute masterstroke from Emery. So you just have to hold your hands up and say, just relax and calm down a little bit. But yeah, I do like the kind of encouraging people to have an opinion. What I don't like is the kind of like, Olsen's playing, we've lost. It doesn't work like that. Let's talk about Hibernian Thursday very quickly, and the kind of more general point that Villa haven't really got out of second gear or first gear, however the phrase is, over the last 3 games now. The Everton game, very easy at Villa Park. The Hibs game, obviously very easy after the 15th minute as well, where Villa eventually scored and win 5-0. Today, at points, very comfortable and very relaxed. I felt as a fan watching the game that Villa in absolute cruise control. But I haven't had to get out of first gear yet, really, and put somebody to the sword. And they're capable of doing it, but we haven't seen it yet. And this Liverpool game coming up next weekend will be the kind of, say, the biggest test of the season. I suppose we've already had Newcastle away, but we've had 3 games now where we've had a pretty easy ride of it. The Hibs game coming up on Thursday again, even if Villa make a heavy rotated side, that should still be a pretty comfortable game for Villa Park as well. If Martinez is to still be injured this week, do we play Marshall in goal on Thursday because we're resting Olsen for Liverpool, or do we think Martinez might be back and Olsen plays again Thursday and Martinez comes back for Liverpool? I'm asking you to read your crystal ball a little bit, but how would you feel about it if Martinez was saying Thursday I'm fit and ready?
Olsen starts for me against Hibs. We've a 5 goal lead. Like, do I think Robin Olsen is like? Would I feel comfortable with Robin Olsen playing 30 games for Villa this season? No, I wouldn't. But like that, and that's realistic. He's not as good as Emi Martinez. If we could upgrade on him, I think the club would upgrade on him. But he's still an international standard goalkeeper, and if he can get better with his feet, I think he'll calm an awful lot. I mean that by being able to pass the ball out and also coming off his line. I think he's really rooted to his line, which just that to me is the biggest issue with him. But I think he plays the weekend. I don't think there's any reason to wrap him in cotton wool for Liverpool on the Sunday afterwards. I think Martinez will be back for that anyway, but I think you play him. I also think, like, 5 goals up as well, I think we're going to see Omari Kellyman in the squad, if not starting. Hibs have just sacked Lee Johnson.
Yeah, it's quite funny, isn't
it? So he's not even going to make the trip to Birmingham. Hibs are on a horror run as well in the last 3-2 yesterday to Livingston.
Bottom of the league,
so I don't know how up for going to Birmingham they're going to be. So I'd say I think Olsen starts, and I think there will be rotation. I think Chambers maybe gets in there somewhere, and I think we see Tielemans instead of Douglas Luiz. If then Donker's back on grass, I think maybe we even see the Donker in there on Thursday, because with 5, I don't think Unai Emery is going to be putting out his full team on Thursday for sure. But Olsen will start, I think, for me.
And even if they knew Martinez was missing Liverpool and said, we'll give him one more game and the international break to get back, I would still play Olsen against Hibs and Liverpool because he's a goalkeeper, and the game at Thursday will trouble him none whatsoever. So get game time, get a bit more confidence, I guess. Just very quickly away from this game, Liverpool and Newcastle are playing now. Newcastle are winning 1-0, and Van Dijk has just been sent off for Liverpool, so he'll miss our game next week unless that's a dodgy decision that gets overturned. I've obviously not seen anything of that, but interesting that he will miss. I actually feel quite confident for that Liverpool game, weirdly. Like we just said, forget Hibs as forget Hibs as a build-up for next week, because like you said, it'll be a massive rotation. I still think we'll beat them anyway, and there'll be nothing read into that game whatsoever. I said to John the other day, almost tongue-in-cheek, it's probably not even worth us doing a post-match show for that, because it'll be such a nothing game on it with the amount of rotation that we'll have. Do you back us against Liverpool? We have a semi-decent record against them. We seem to have a good game against them, even if we don't particularly get a result. Like I said, that will be our toughest test since Newcastle, and we have been playing out in first gear for the last couple of weeks. But I would back us to go there with a specific game plan under Emery, whatever the team sheet comes out as. I won't be having a breakdown. I think we could do a job on Liverpool. I think they're vulnerable in places.
You're talking to Mr. Glass half full all the time. My optimism knows no bounds with Aston Villa, and if Virgil van Dijk is out, and if it's a case of Gomez and Matip or Gomez and Konate in there, I don't know who he would go there. I think you'd have to, you wouldn't go, you never go to Liverpool, or you never go playing against Liverpool. Their forward line is just immense. Put it this way, Dan, I'm going to put it this way to you. If Salah goes to Saudi Arabia during the week before the transfer window closes, I'll come back and I'll give you my percentage. But at the moment, I would be less than 50-50. Villa could get a result, because you have to. I think Liverpool you have to respect them. Now, saying that, with Unai Emery here, we can catch teams. We have caught
Yeah.
teams, and we will catch teams this season. So it could very easily be that we catch Liverpool. So I would be hopeful and confident, but not expectant. If that's if that makes any sense.
Yeah, although I was sitting on our show saying, "Oh, we'll go to Newcastle and get something," so I'm not the best
Yeah.
judge. I'll
That's
predicted Villa
it's
to win
100%
every single
why
week
I'm
so
not
far.
predicted it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's predicted.
Um,
It's why I'm not predicting the Villa could go there and get something, because I'm
yeah.
still twice shy after Newcastle game.
For anyone that has got one eye on that Liverpool game, in the comments, if you could just give us a shout whether it was a red card or whether it's one of these ones that could be overturned.
People
The
on
Premier
Twitter
League
are saying it
website,
was never a red.
well, really, the Premier League website says that Van Dijk brings down Isak and he's shown a red card. The Dutchman doesn't agree with it and sticks around, but a VAR call confirms it. You'd expect that probably won't be overturned, even if it doesn't really look like a red. Just quickly, Neil, to end, I know we've been a bit all over the place. Talk to me about Matty Cash a little bit. Somebody who I like, and that's not just because we did an interview with him before pre-season. If he has a bad game, I will still say that. But he's one that kind of gets this perception of being, he could be upgraded on, and that might be true, or that he shouldn't be anywhere near the side and things like this. And I think he gets a bit of a harsh rap sometimes, and sometimes that is fair. But further forward, and that's probably not always where his best attributes. I do think his end product could be improved upon, and his crossing of the ball could be improved upon. But today specifically, he's in the right positions and he finishes well and could have had a hat trick. Just give me, to end the show, a bit of a chat about Matty Cash.
Very delighted for him today, as I say. Formerly, I suppose it's very easy to forget, and it's been 4 years now he's been with Aston Villa. 3 years, 4 years, 3 years anyway. He did start off his career playing in midfield as well. So, but you can't just turn that on. You can't just turn on that switch whenever you need to. It's a really nice option to have now with this new. I was going to call it a fad, but it's not a fad. With this new, really ingenious or this innovative kind of tactic of bringing that fullback in field, like people are doing with John Stones, Trent Alexander-Arnold. If Matty Cash was to get used to playing back in midfield again, he seems like the perfect candidate you could have for that. Today's performance, I think, was really good. I think he was brave to get to that ball at the back post. He collided with the post afterwards, but he was fine. The adrenaline kept him going. And then the second goal was just really good positioning from him. Really, really good positioning from him. And he had there was another few instances where he was attacking the right positions in the box as well, from cutbacks. And he was unlucky not to have his hat trick. So Matty Cash, look, I think we can. I think it's fair to say, like, players will go through their peaks and their troughs. And Aston Villa, this team is not the finished article. And we know when Unai came in, he didn't really fancy Cash, it seemed. But Matty Cash has learned. He has changed. He's changed the way that he's played. I couldn't tell you how he's done that, but obviously he has. Unai Emery now is trusting him in a lot more situations, a lot more areas. He didn't re-up Ashley Young's contract. Matty Cash is maturing as a player, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he does it, and especially if playing him as that right winger or that right wide midfielder continues over the course of the season. It's just really interesting, because I don't care who plays in this team, as long as we're getting a tune out of the 11 that are there.
Exactly.
And there's a part of me as well, Dan, that it gets a bit giddier when you've got a manager that out tactics another manager like we did today. There's like a winning on merit that I like and I enjoy about that. So long may it continue. That Matty Cash is finding those areas and popping up and scoring goals. Like I think in his first season with us, did he score 4 goals? Did he score 4 goals for Villa?
You're asking me a question that I don't know the answer to.
I'm asking myself a question I don't know the answer to as well. But I seem to remember he scored quite a few goals maybe in his first season. Okay, don't just Google Cash Wikipedia, because that won't work. That won't get you the answer anyway, everybody. But like, he's 6 goals for Aston Villa in the league. Yeah. 2021-22, he scored 4 goals for Aston Villa. It says here, all in the league. I don't remember that.
I was going to say, can you think of the others? There was the one against Man City, wasn't there, in the final game of the season? So that's 5. 4, sorry. 5 would be today. What's the 6th?
there was Everton. He scored that goal against Everton, and he scored the other goal he scored this season as well was with his left foot. That goal against Everton in 21-22. I know he scored that with his left foot as well. Yeah, this is one for Dan Bardell. This is where I really like Dan Bardell with his encyclopedic knowledge of minutes and dates that people scored goals is incredible.
I can barely remember what I had for breakfast, so you got no chance of telling me what specific games those goals were. I keep saying we're going to end, and we are in a sec. Well, as soon as I've got you on, I'll ask you one final question. We are doing another podcast tomorrow, by the way, for those that enjoy the show. I'll be on with John to look at the kind of wider talking points after the game, and we'll see if anything happens with this Liverpool game as well tomorrow morning. Are you concerned all about Ollie Watkins' form in terms of actually scoring goals? I know he scored 3 in the Conference League on Wednesday night, but 3 Premier League games now without a goal. He's had a couple of chances that he probably could have done better with, and people again will argue that a world-class striker or somebody better than Ollie Watkins would have scored a couple of those chances that he's had. He obviously gets the assist today for Cash's first goal. His contract situation is still rumbling on, to use a cliche. Are you concerned about his form at all, or do you think it'll come?
It's a difficult question to answer because I'm not concerned about his form, because up until last season when he went in that massive streak of scoring goals, he'd been a player who goes on droughts and then might score 2 in a game. So he's been a kind of a cluster scorer, if that's such a phrase. So I'm not too concerned because he has had 3-4 game droughts before. I think he was incredibly unlucky for that one. That I know people are going to say he hit it straight at James Trafford. I think he connects with it perfectly, and I don't think that at the pace the ball comes across there, like I don't think no matter how much if he opens up his body there, he's putting it wide. I think he did exactly what he had to do, and James Trafford was just in the right place. And in fairness, he caught it. I think Trafford's a really good goalkeeper. Actually, I maligned him a small bit about being 19 million for somebody who'd only played at League One level, and was he worth the same amount that Emi Martinez was? I think he was good today, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing him, seeing him play. But I think that was a good save, and I think that I don't genuinely the pace the ball came across to him. I don't think he could have done much better than just literally put his laces through it. Because if you open your body there, you put it wide, and everyone's going, "Oh my God, how did he put it wide from 4 yards?" So sometimes you got to just hope that the goalkeeper lets it squirt underneath him, and it didn't work. But he has had opportunities. I thought against Everton, he was very loose with the ball, But today, I think he was much better. I think he brought people into play, and I think he needs that goal in the Premier League. That's why I was more annoyed at Zaniolo for not squaring the ball to him, to tapping into the back of the net just to get on the score sheet. That's what his confidence needs. But as long as the goals are coming from somewhere, and I do think that there probably will be a small bit of competition brought in over the next few days for him. I've always been banging the drum that Unai Emery is going to bring in a striker over 30 that the fans won't particularly understand, but the fans will go, why are we bringing in a 30-year-old fellow who only scored 6 goals in La Liga last year? And all of a sudden he has a pretty decent season for us, and he's not seen as the long-term project, but he just fills a gap for us this year. I've always been of the opinion that's going to happen. We'll see over the next few days, but I'm not too concerned about Ollie Watkins just yet. If we get to the end of September and we're still waiting for him to score a goal, well, then it might be time to panic. But
it's like you said, as long as the 11 that plays though is ticking nicely and performing, it to a certain degree it doesn't really matter. Like including obviously the Europa League, the Europa Conference League game where Watkins does score a hat trick. We scored 12, 13 goals since that Newcastle game. So the team, as much as we said, have played easy opposition in Everton, Hibs, and Burnley. We are creating chances and we are scoring goals throughout the team. So even if Ollie Watkins isn't the one sticking the ball in the back of the net, as long as Villa are playing well, it doesn't really matter. But again, the cliche is you want him off the mark as soon as possible for confidence and things like that. And if he does score against Liverpool, for example, I know there's an international break, but I'd still be backing Watkins for 13, 14, 15 goals in the league this year anyway. And if the Conference League game is anything to go by, a hatful in that competition as well, which it will be nice for him. Neil, well, we'll end it there. Dragged over a little bit longer than I would like. Like I said, we're going to do another show tomorrow. So anything we've not talked about, Cameron Archer to Sheffield United, for example, will be on the agenda for tomorrow. If you want to suggest a topic or ask a question for tomorrow's show, get involved in the YouTube comments and I'll compile those and put them to John. Neil, thanks for stepping in and joining me. It's a pleasure as always. So the live comments for getting involved, and those watching on Sunday evening. If you're watching this on catch up, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. Neil, thank you for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.